Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and it's International Week, which means we're all thoroughly bored. But what I thought I'd do is, over the course of the fortnight, bring on my favorite guest to talk all things Spurs and really just get an idea of where people feel like Spurs are after 11 games in the Premier League and still unbeaten in the Champions League as well. So first up today, we've got Jorri. Jorri, how are you doing?
I'm good, Barnaby. Good to see you again.
And you. Before we get into it, just a reminder, guys, as you can see on the screen, of our sponsor, okjersey.com, top quality football shirts and vintage Tottenham shirts available at really great prices. So if you want to buy one, go and get one and use the code BARN, that's BARN, to get 8% off. But let's get started, Jorri, and we're recording on Monday evening. I'm going to start by asking you how you felt after that draw against Manchester United the other day.
Yeah, it was a lot of mixed emotions. I think most of us were there, like a little bit frustration. I mean, I wasn't that surprised after the Copenhagen game. Of course, that's my team as well, FC Copenhagen. Yeah. So,
so hold on. Let me interrupt then and ask how you felt during that game. Was that difficult to watch? What was that like?
No. I mean, Tottenham is number one for me over everything. So no, it wasn't difficult. I mean, I haven't been living in Copenhagen for a long time, and I haven't been following them the last 3 seasons really. I mean, I watched the odd game, but I'm not too much into them. But they have a sweet spot in my heart for sure. So.
Okay, but you said mixed emotions after the Man United kind of last minute equaliser.
Yeah, so after the Copenhagen game, I think many of us got kind of on the glass half full type scenario once again, and I mean, I don't have any expectations for this season other than just progression with Frank's project, and to be honest, I think we're really ahead of what I expected before this season, which is that we have real substantive defensive structure in place already. And we have a structure, like Frank likes to say, phase 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. 2 is still a work in progress, and 3 is definitely not there, So our attacking phase is definitely leaves a lot missing. But like I said, so Copenhagen, they gave us, like European games will give us time and space, and as soon as, for example, Xavi had some time and space, well, he looked a little bit more like the Bundesliga guy, and that's what you get in the Bundesliga. What you don't get in the Premier League is time and space, So I expected it to be much more of a grind this weekend, but still, it's always a little bit of frustration with how things break down in the last phase. But there's so many new components, and still going, So it is to be expected. Of course, I would love to see more fireworks, and then of course once he made the subs, which I kind of agreed with at the time. Of course, I was also wanted maybe Richie out at that point, but fine, it turned out to be the right subs, and we all thought we got away with it, but we didn't. But at least we didn't. This is one of those that historically we would probably lose it like that, in the last minutes or something, So isn't that progression? I ask you, Barnaby, isn't that some kind of progression?
I guess so. Certainly in my growing up, we would have lost to Man United that way. That's true. And the other thing I was just thinking in trying to look for positives was I was glad we conceded in the last second against them this time rather than the Europa League final. So that's the way I'm justifying it.
Well, there you go. So
there we go. Yeah. Okay, so I've sent Jorri a load of questions earlier on that I'm going to be asking all of my guests over this international week. So don't feel too stressed by these, but they're basically questions that are loosely based around how we're doing so far. And like you said, you already feel like we're slightly ahead of schedule. So that's good. That's good positivity. I'm just going to start with what has been your surprise of this season so far, would you say?
I mean, that's one of the surprises. Maybe not the biggest surprise. I mean, I didn't expect this. The surprise in that was how little it really took to get real structure. After Ange for 2 years, even though I was very critical of Ange, I couldn't be sure of what was down to him, what was down just to the messy situation the whole club seemed to be in, and what was down to the individual players. Turns out that, and I for a long time always thought we had a good core to build on. So it turns out we didn't need that much to get just real rigid structure into the team, at least in terms of, not all of these holes and conceding like we were doing and so on. I wouldn't just call it defensive structure. It's also in terms of giving us options and time to build when we are on the ball, but we're not then finding the perfect out balls or outlets for that yet. That hopefully they'll come, but yeah. So I was surprised how seemingly little it took to get that into the team. And in terms of players, of course, I'm quite surprised, even though I've rated him, I thought, as high as possible, but apparently he's better than that. That's Van de Ven. He's turning out to be such a leader and just such a clutch player, really. Also, maybe I would say I expected a lot with Kudos, but I'm also a little bit surprised at just how not bothered he was about anything called Tottenham pressure or being the man or whatever. He just stepped on the field and just did his thing, and it was beautiful. Of course, we overplayed him now, and we're paying for it. But So there is many individuals that I'm kind of happily watching now. But these two maybe stand out for me now.
It's interesting, isn't it, how we don't seem to be getting as many muscle injuries as we did under Ange.
Exactly.
And certainly Van de Ven is looking really unbelievably fit, but we are still stacking up the injuries. I do feel like once we get a lot of those injuries back, and obviously I don't think Maddison will play this season, but once we get the kind of rest of them back, I think we could really potentially push on, especially if he sticks with that kind of left side of Udogie and Odobert and Xavi Simons all working together. I really like that. What has been your moment of the season so far, would you say?
I mean, I have to say the Van de Ven goal. It was... I mean, that's a Puskas goal, So
how did you react? How did you react when it went in?
We completely lost our shit, to be honest. Me and the kids, we ran around the living room and just
brilliant.
10 minutes probably, and I don't know what the neighbors thought, but we completely lost it. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually got in trouble from my flatmate because I was screaming so much, and it was we've got quite thin walls, and we've got a family who live in the flat next door, and I think my flatmate was worried that I'd be waking up their young daughter. But you don't get many of those. But Spurs do seem to have a monopoly on the Puskas Award. Lamella,
I mean, This is I think I haven't been calling or talking to it. I've been very busy, and it's not that I'm not interested or anything, but I managed to call in to Ben and Sim. We are Tottenham TV, and I actually said that this has historically been a little bit of a problem. Where Tottenham is a unique club in the sense that we have everything. We've got a big heart, in terms of where we should be. We're not looking at our mid-table brothers, even though we might be mid-table for long periods. We're always looking at the big boys and telling us, rightly or wrongly, that we should be there in amongst them. And when that doesn't happen, we've kind of relied on flair and amazing plays and goals and so on. to soothe us. It's kind of our little drug addiction, you know,
Yeah.
and which has been, you know, the toxic version of that is it's a crutch, you know, which we should get away from. We should always choose results and seriousness above flair and so on. But we have an ethos and we have an identity, and we shouldn't abandon that at all, you know.
Yeah.
But we should maybe, you know, update, you know, kind of reform a little bit in our mindset towards that, you know, and foremost to afford the players and the manager some patience and time to kind of get it going. You know?
But don't you think one of the problems though is that we've had a little taste of both of them under Pochettino, where we had the flair, we had the class. I look back now and just realize I feel like even at the top. I feel like at the time I just thought what an unbelievable player Dele Alli was, but I didn't realize how important he was to kind of almost like that thing that we really don't have that much now, which is like just a bit of magic when you need to unlock something. And he really brought that. And then, but also what Pochettino had was that spine of steel, you know, Alderweireld, Vertonghen, and Dyer, Dembele, Wanyama when he came in, just that kind of steel spine down the middle. And I think I kind of think Frank will find his way to having a good blend, but we're just going to have to be patient.
Yeah, but I think you're spot on that, Barnaby. I think Pochettino was really the first to show us all what we are, what our potential really is. Also, in terms of what it looks like, it looks like hard work and structure and good tactics, but always flair, always to theirs to do as well. You know, even though management wasn't doing that at the time, but Pochettino and the boys, they were definitely in that mindset. And I believe exactly Frank knows that, and I think Frank is that type of a manager. My biggest worry is that, you know, that he won't be afforded the time that Pochettino, for example, was at.
But we just don't know what we don't know what Venkatesham's going to be like on that front, though, do we? That's the thing.
No, and we don't either know how kind of sincere this new age with Enoch is. You know, I mean, we're quite jaded by now. You know, it's 20 years, but I definitely can see a lot of stuff was so dysfunctional because of the person of Daniel Levy. So I have hope that even though they might not become a lot more generous, at least the running of the club might become more modern and professional.
Seems to be. Yeah, it does seem to be. Okay, I'm going to ask you two questions, and I just want kind of very short answers. What's your favorite thing about Thomas Frank, and what's your least favorite thing about Thomas Frank?
My favorite thing about Thomas Frank is that is his honesty, but that's kind of maybe not doing it service. So his fearlessness of talking the same talk that we fans do, not shying away from any of the ugly bits as well, you know, taking that on and just being upfront with it.
Have there not been a few occasions though where he's said he thought they were good performances, and I'm like, were they, Thomas? I'm not sure.
Yeah, you could say that, but I don't think so, because I think Thomas is thinking exactly in terms of the project. He is thinking about, you know, this is what I can expect at this point. You know, we got the structure, we weren't overrun and so on. But of course, as a totality, I agree with you, Barnaby. This is not something we're going to accept as a totality, as Spurs, as just, you know, setting up to wait for their mistakes or something like that. That's not Spurs. That's not a big club in general.
No.
Like, even though many clubs are doing it this season, you know, they're kind of approaching it this way, and all the direct football instead of the tiki-taka and so on.
Yeah,
it's still, at some point, you need to simply dictate everything if you want to go for it, you know, and
especially at home. Especially at home,
exactly. So yeah.
And what's your least favorite thing about Frank at the moment?
His Danish accent.
His Danish accent. But you're Danish, right?
No, I'm not. I'm
Oh, you're
Icelandic.
not?
Don't say that about
Okay.
me. I'm very
I
offended.
apologize.
No, I
I
have a lot of.
apologize.
No, I grew up in Denmark, so I lived there
Okay,
in
got it.
22. I have kind of like a mixed one. I have a half Icelandic, half Danish accent. So I'm
Got it.
neither, but
I
yeah,
won't
I'm
make
not
that.
a
I won't
fan
make
of
that
the
mistake
Danish
again.
accent.
I won't
No,
make
no,
that
no,
mistake again.
no, no.
And if you could, if Jorri, if you were in a press conference with Thomas Frank, what one question would you like to ask him?
I would probably do like a long or kind of one of those alley goal questions or something like, are you at all nervous that that the demand for flair and attacking football will rob you of the time that you need for this project? That
I
would
would
be
like
my
to hear. I'd like to hear him answer that because he has already spoken quite a fair bit about how everything he does is for the long term, and it's like that's all well and good when you're at Brentford, but at
just about
Spurs.
any other club, you know, but certainly not Tottenham.
And
That's for
Jorri,
sure.
if you were gonna, if you were gonna have to answer a question like this, how long do you think realistically Thomas Frank will be at Spurs? Do you think there's a chance he could build a legacy, a kind of Pochettino-esque 5-year legacy?
Yeah, definitely. I think. I mean, that's not so much on Frank, but I think it's going to be 18 months or 5 years. Yeah, that's kind of my bet. I think if he gets beyond that initial knee jerk that we've seen so many times now, then he will definitely be kind of showing to everyone that it's been worth that investment, you know. So yeah.
You do seem a lot more positive about Frank than you were about Big Ange, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But I've always had I always rated him, but I was always also surprised about Tottenham community kind of wanting him, because you know I always knew that Frank would mean a lot of defensive football, at least initially, you know, even though I know he can also do the other stuff. But like I always found it a little bit. I think, I mean, the Frank wave started after last season, and that's the most attacking Brentford has played, you know. So I think the last 2 seasons maybe, but so I think that's maybe where the Tottenham community kind of started to fall in love with him. But of course I knew about him from my rivals in Denmark, and of course, I've always followed Brentford quite a bit as well, because it's quite heavily Danish connected, both in ownership and also connections to the various academies that Denmark is running. So Brentford was always interesting for me anyway. But like I was happy that it seemed like people had him at number 1 or 2 as their choice, but of course I always had this worry in the back of my mind. But you remember he is quite tactical and defensive, he's not just about his own thing, he's about setting up as to stifle the opponent and so on, and
yeah. Well, yeah. I'm just hoping that he'll be able to, like he talks about, add those kind of attacking layers to that. Just before I ask you some more of these questions, I'm just going to get a word from our sponsors. Jorri, say where you are.
Yep.
Get yourself to okjersey.com, where you can buy the best football shirts around, including this one I'm wearing now, and of course, the absolutely magnificent black Spurs away shirt. And as if that wasn't enough, if you go onto their website and like the look of one of the shirts there, choose your size, pick the Champions League badge for the sleeve as well if you're that way inclined, then go to checkout and type the code BARN into the coupon section. That's BARN as in short for Barnaby. And when you do, you'll get a whopping 8% off your purchase. Now, I'm no mathematician, but 8% means if you've spent, say, and let's face it, I'm being optimistic here, 100 quid, then you'd get £8 off, not to be sniffed at. Get yourself to okjersey.com to pick one up, or if you're too lazy to type in the website, just scan the QR code that's on the left of me throughout this video. Enjoy. Okay, thanks for that, Jorri. I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question now. If you were Vinay Venkatesham, and you had £100 million and £200,000 a week to spend on one player who could realistically come to Spurs in January, who would that player be and why?
You had to ruin it with the realistic.
Yeah, afraid so.
Well, I heard today a rumor that Madrid is looking for 70 for Rodrigo.
That's right.
So for sure, that would be my number one. I like if it's
Above
still the Premier
Semenyo,
League.
above Antoine Semenyo.
Yes, I would. Well, yeah. Not because of the play. Well, yeah, also because of the play, but also I feel like we're more in need of that right now. I think we can kind of make, once Kulusevski and others are back, we have more options in that regard. I do feel like if we could get like a really close to world class left wing option, then it's gonna look a completely different game for us. But if not, if that wouldn't be on the table, one guy I've been hoping for quite a bit now, and of course wanted him way back when we first were connected, but I've been hoping for the last year at least that something might be happening with Vlahovic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I think, both with Frank, and like I think he could be perfect for Frank, and even
Apparently
though
Bayern Munich sniffing around him as well at the moment.
yeah, but and that makes, if you think about it, why are they sniffing around? That probably maybe something happening with Kane, and of course, need I say, whatever we can do to get Kane back, I would go for that in a heartbeat.
Do you think he might fancy Barcelona, Kane?
Yeah.
I think he should go to Barcelona. I think he'd win the Ballon d'Or if he went to Barcelona.
Yeah. I mean, I think he should. I have no gripe against him. I would love to see. I could also say, Kane, you should come back and you can actually win the league with us now. Give us, one, maybe two windows, and we should be trying to win the league with Kane, and you would get your Premier League goal scorer record as well.
Yeah, I've said it on a few of my videos. Is like, I actually don't think there are many options for him in England other than Spurs, because everyone else is all strikers.
Yeah, no, I don't think. To be honest, I think he might consider United in a not with this manager and not in this moment. But in a different scenario, he might have considered. City is always an option. So if they want to do something with Haaland,
sure.
I don't think Pep. I think Pep might actually still, fancy him for a year at least, But
what, to play behind Haaland?
Be next year, What?
To play as a 10 behind Haaland?
No.
If Haaland went to Real Madrid or something.
Yeah, it would have to be something like that. I don't think, I don't think Kane would either go for that. But yeah, I agree. I don't think Kane would be considering really too much other than us, or if he got that spot, but that wouldn't. I don't think that would be more than a year. Whereas if he comes to us, he's gonna get on the project and try and win some silverware. And I think Kane, I would be very surprised if Kane didn't feel a little bit of a sting seeing Sonny lift that trophy and he wasn't there, so I really think he would love to come back and just cement himself as one of the absolute legends of the club,
Absolutely,
he would certainly do that.
So you kind of alluded to this a bit earlier in the episode, but Vinay Venkatesham seems kind of determined to show the Spurs fan base that things are different now under the Lewis family, now that Daniel Levy is gone. Do you have any kind of instinct as to how those changes might show themselves in the January transfer window? Or do you think, as I fear, we might get towards the end of the January transfer window and still be like looking for a dodgy loan to come in, like, Timo Werner?
I think we're going to be good in whatever we're going to do, whatever our budget is. I think we will see more decisiveness and more kind of direction.
I like this positivity, Jorri.
Yes, well, I'll tell you my theory on Savinho. I think the only reason we kept talking with Savinho was because of Levy, because Levy knew it was never going to get done. That was his way to get the window to a place where we had to do this emergency scramble. And of course, we saved it with Xavi, and I'm sure Xavi will come good, But I think I think Levy has been sabotaging a lot of stuff through the years, and these transfers and so on. And like if you're the Lewis family and you're looking for that golden exit, you want to get up there a couple of seasons as quick as possible in order to sell at the highest point. But Levy knew that would mean that he would get less in his pocket down, long term, and he would be out of the club and so on. So I kind of completely buy that narrative that Levy was also a problem for the owners. So yeah.
Okay, so a positive January. That's exciting. Okay, I'm going to ask you one more question.
I wouldn't say I would say more decisive, more kind of clear direction. Whatever.
So like earlier deals, you think maybe earlier deals?
Earlier deals, more consistent connections and so on. Not just flip-flopping from one player to the other and so on. Yeah.
Okay. So. My final question is, where do you think Tottenham will finish in each competition they're left in this season? So we're talking the Champions League group, or not the Champions League group, sorry, the Champions League, the Premier League, and the FA Cup.
I got to be positive here, right? So
you don't have to be. You've been very positive in this episode so far.
Yeah, I think so. I think Champions League, we are going to be last 8 or better.
Okay, quarterfinals. I like that. Okay, Premier League.
Premier League, I think we might take that 5th spot. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're going to be 6th. That's what I think. Okay, and then how far do you think we'll get in the FA Cup?
Not that far. Not that far. No. We
might have some players back by January, though, Jorri. You might have some players back.
Yeah. I mean, we could go and win and whatever. I'm answering it in the sense that I think we're definitely gonna low prioritize that, as we have done before. But I think this year, especially, we're gonna really put everything on league position and Champions League. So
brilliant. Jorri, thank you so much for coming on the show again. Really appreciate it, and I hope you're right. I think everyone would be pretty happy with a 5th place finish and a Champions League quarterfinal.
Yeah, we shouldn't sniff at that. I mean, that's a massive progression in my mind. So yeah.
All right, brilliant. Before I go, guys, just another word from my sponsor. Enjoy the rest of your international break. Come on, you Spurs. Get yourself to okjersey.com, where you can buy the best football shirts around, including this one I'm wearing now, and of course, the absolutely magnificent black Spurs away shirt. And as if that wasn't enough, if you go onto their website and like the look of one of the shirts there, choose your size, pick the Champions League badge for the sleeve as well if you're that way inclined, then go to checkout and type the code BARN into the coupon section. That's BARN as in short for Barnaby. And when you do, you'll get a whopping 8% off your purchase. Now, I'm no mathematician, but 8% means if you've spent, say, and let's face it, I'm being optimistic here, £100, then you get £8 off, not to be sniffed at.